My Lords, I join others in congratulating the noble lady, Baroness Barker, on securing this debate. It is a debate quite literally about life and death, and therefore one of the most important subjects with which this House can deal. I think the report is an extremely compelling one, and I support without hesitation its recommendations, particularly on the issue of paediatric treatments, which the noble lady mentioned briefly. There is something horribly cruel about babies and infants being infected with HIV, and that is compounded by the poor levels of care available. The figures from WHO and UNICEF, which show that by 2020 some 1.9 million children will require HIV treatment, are heartbreaking, and the chances of even a majority of them getting such treatment are slender. But as UNAIDS make clear, quotes, without treatment, about 1/3 of children living with HIV will die by their first birthday. New energy and focus needs to be brought to bear on this issue, and policy and programming given the same priority as the key populations. But the point I want to highlight, my Lords, is one already raised by the noble Lord Fowler and the noble Lord Cashman, which we have debated with great passion on a number of occasions in this House, the link between criminalisation of homosexuality and the spread of HIV. I can promise, noble Lords, that the three of us have not colluded on our homework here, but the message, I hope, is clear. For with the best will in the world, HIV treatments, when they are available, are only of use if people are prepared to come forward, get tested, and then take the drugs. But in far too many parts of the world, the majority of them, as we've heard shamefully in the Commonwealth, criminalisation and stigma, which my noble friend talked so powerfully about, mean that HIV spreads more quickly, that safe sex practices never take root because there is no education on the subject, that prevention programmes simply don't exist, that people at risk don't get a test, and that the treatments central to this report are therefore simply not an option. And the evidence, my Lords, is overwhelming, as the Human Dignity Trust and others have documented in compelling work on the subject. The most telling statistic comes from UNAIDS, which found that HIV prevalence among men who have sex with men rises from 1 in 15 in Caribbean countries, where homosexuality is not criminalised, to 1 in 4 where it is. And in countries where homosexuality is unlawful, the risks for the entire community are heightened, because men who have sex with men and trans women have concurrent relationships with men and women with fatal consequences, as the noble Lady Gould made in such a compelling way. As I've said before on this issue, criminalisation kills. We've heard about the sterling and extraordinary courageous work of the noble Lord in the mid-1980s, when the phrase that came very much to the fore was AIDS don't die of ignorance. Well, now I have to say it would be AIDS criminalisation kills. So AIDS don't die of criminalisation might be the better way of looking at it. And whether or not there is widespread access to effective treatments, the HIV/AIDS crisis can never be brought under control, and the dream of an AIDS-free world, which the noble Lady Barker talked about by 2030, will remain impossible, while consensual same-sex relationships remain criminal in so many parts of the globe. My Lords, that has massive implications for public policy and for the brilliant work that is going on in the area of treatment. The UK, quite rightly, is investing millions of pounds in managing and ameliorating the HIV/AIDS crisis in the developing world, yet we are still prepared to accept the criminalisation that's fueling it. While criminalisation exists, much of this money, invested with the best of intent, is being wasted. Policy needs now to be joined up, and that needs to start with our leadership role in the Commonwealth, as 40 of its 53 members criminalise in a most shameful breach of human rights. And 60% of all people with HIV are currently living in the Commonwealth. Yet it is still a subject which, I say with some irony, dare not speak its name. At a presentation, my Lords, entitled Getting to Zero of the Commonwealth Secretariat on World AIDS Day in December, there was not a single mention of the link between criminalisation and HIV, despite the overwhelming empirical evidence, nor even mention of men who have sex with men and trans women as high-risk groups. Progress